Okay, guys, so welcome back to the channel. A bit of an interesting video here for you guys today because I'm going to be showing you what the inside of a TEMU knife looks like. And so this is a knife that I bought off of TEMU. It was an add-on to an existing order so that I could get the free shipping. And so going into it, I was kind of already aware that I was taking a risk that, materials or quality might not be up to standard. You never kind of know with these products. Sometimes the things you get off Temu are like the best things in the world. Sometimes the things that you get, you're taking a risk. You don't really know. So the thing that kind of drew me to it was actually the shape of the blade itself. I thought, man, that's like a really nice Tonto blade. I like the little swage back and the detailing on it. I was like, that's just a pretty blade. Like, all right, I'll take a chance on it, right? It's not that much. We'll see how it goes, right? And so the knife showed up. I was really happy with how everything looked, how it felt. But there was one little detail that was kind of bothering me, and it's actually the guard here, this S-shaped guard here. And the thing that's bothering me is that it's actually in the wrong direction. If you look at the part that's kind of swung back, if that was actually being held in my hand, what's happening is it's actually going to dig into the fleshy part of my hand, especially if I was to get hit in any way. Um, Whereas this style of guard is actually supposed to be in this direction, where that up sweep keeps things away from that fleshy part, and the curl over goes to curl over your knuckles to protect them from like glancing strikes and stuff like that. Not that I'm going to be doing any knife fighting, but I was like, it kind of bothers me. And I was like looking at the construction of the knife, and I was like, there's only one screw. Let me see if I can take it apart and see if that part can just be flipped around real easily, because if I can, I'll be happier with how the knife is. But as I was taking the knife apart, I noticed a couple more things, and it started to lead me into some weird questions about the construction of this knife. So I'll just show you here. The other thing that I noticed was that it says M48 Cyclone on it, which is interesting. Because this isn't an M48 Cyclone knife. The M48 Cyclone is actually a kind of three-bladed, long, twisted dagger style of a blade, and M48 products have been around for a while. They're fairly well known in the knife community as kind of being like more of a tactical kind of, product, but you'll see plenty of videos of people smashing cinder blocks, breaking bricks, doing all kinds of crazy stuff with them, and so I was kind of like, well, what is this? What is this knife? Is it an M48? It's not a Cyclone, so I don't even know. Did I buy a bootleg knife with a handle from another product? Kind of looks like it. And so, but the other thing that's interesting is if this is a handle from an M48 Cyclone, I wonder if the inside of an M48 Cyclone isn't constructed exactly the same as this. And so as I continued to take it apart and found some more interesting things, I found out that it's actually a rat tail tang design. And so I'm going to take this section off here. This is the threaded tube section, has two different threads, one so that it can be bolted through the handle. There's like a little ledge that it gets bolted to. But this is the tang of the knife, right? And I was expecting this thickness, right, to continue all the way through the handle. I was expecting it to be that thick and kind of go all the way through the handle to that position with the one screw where it would get pinned through, and then for the butt section to kind of like wrap around it, and so the holes would line up and it all gets pinned together, right? That was the construction I was expecting, right? But when I took it apart, instead what we find is a kind of somewhat threaded rat tail section that goes into a tube. And now this is interesting for a few reasons. Rat tail designs have actually been around like forever. If you go into old museums and check out swords, knives, spears, daggers, anything that has a rat tail style tang that goes onto it, what what they used to do way back in the day is they would forge weld a section of softer steel, like little rat tail, onto the harder blade steel, so that when they finally did the heat treatment on the blade and everything, that section would be softer than the blade steel itself, because the blade steel was usually pretty brittle. And so they would want a softer section to go through your wooden handle or whatever the handle material was, so that it would have a little bit of give and it wouldn't just snap off and the blade fall out. And so That style of construction is totally fine, totally historically accurate, totally acceptable, everything like that. But when you cut little jagged threads into a tang, into a rat tail, what you end up doing is creating weak points. The two weakest points would actually be the first two, right? Because you're going from something large to this like shoulder down to something. And if I was to hit that with a hammer, it would probably snap off right at that point, right? That's how the construction works. And so I was kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this. It is a piece of steel. It probably would take a lot of work to break that. I'm not the kind of guy that does batoning or anything like, damaging to my blades. So it's not a super huge concern to me. But I just thought it was an interesting thing to look at while I was kind of here. And secondarily, this tube. The tube, when you thread it on, if you tighten it, what it's going to do is it's going to put pressure on that joint, right? Because it's almost like a screw jack or like a screw, lever or something, where it's putting that pressure against the shoulders and against that first thread the most, right? And so if you were to over tighten this, it would also crack that thread off. And so I was like, I don't really know how good I feel about this construction. Not that I would be able to break a bolt like that or like a threaded rod like that. That's a strong piece of metal. I wouldn't be able to break that. But just the way that those two join together, I was like, why would you go through all the trouble of doing this if you could just have like a straight piece of metal that came off the blade and just had a hole that goes through the hand? Like, why go through all these extra steps? And you're going through all these extra steps literally so you can use this specific handle. I don't know how I feel about that, especially I don't know how I would feel about that in an M48 Cyclone either. So I thought it would be an interesting thing to take a look at while I was here taking this apart, because I was like, how are you supposed to feel about that one? So no idea. It seems like a stress point, a weak point, something that's going to snap off somewhere where it's like, why would you put that like right there at the front of the knife where it's going to like take the most pressure to do, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So that's the risk you're taking with TEMU. When you can't see the inside, when you can't see the way that the knife works, you're taking a risk at the blade construction. I actually have another knife that looks like it's a full tang, but it's not. I'll show you that one day, guys, because what they did was it's like this, but they made a handle that looks like it's full tang, and then they pinned it to the things that they try to get away with instead of just making a full tang knife. But here we go, guys. We will flip this around to the proper orientation. There we go. We will put our threaded rod back in, and so what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to tighten it. It's going to be like finger tight, like not even any pressure at all, right? Like that's it. Because if I over tighten this or I crank down on it, all it's doing is pulling all of those threads and trying to snap that off. And so that's really as good as it gets, and that might be as good as your M48 is constructed. So something to definitely think about. I will put this back together for us so that we can see the way that the full thing goes together. So there we go. I don't want to push with my fingers against blades and stuff like that, so I won't do that. But now you can see that the maybe you can't. That's the bolt hole, right? The bolt goes down into there. So get that on the driver. I can just feel it down in there. That's the thing, because if you over tighten the other side and then you over tighten this side, it's all going to be pulling against that one spot. And so it kind of makes me feel a little bit nervous about it. But there we go. We got our handle back on at least. And now we have this butt section, which is actually fairly impressive. This is probably cast metal. I would definitely say that this is a casting. There's probably a seam on it somewhere, but definitely some casting markings. So not sure how strong this would be, but it is a nice little heavy pommel, and that's one thing. Like it's like the most overlooked part of knife construction, sword construction, everything else, is that you are actually supposed to be able to hit something with the pommel of your knife or your sword or whatever it is. And most of them don't even go to the length of doing anything substantial for the pommel anymore. Usually it might be built into the full tang, so or you might have a brass pommel or something pinned onto it. But interesting to see something like this. I'm not mad at this. I just wish that the tang of the knife went the full way through and then was pinned through here, because I just feel like that would be stronger construction. But what do I know, right? And so this just goes in here. Oh, I have a hammer somewhere so that I can knock that into place. There we go. I just used a rubber mallet to put that in. And then these screws are all the only thing that holds this all together. So it's a little bit tight to get that in there. I know that it only goes in one way, so I'm just trying to look and see which way it looks like it's going to fit the best, because it doesn't look like the pommel's going to get any tighter in there. And I don't want to slice my arm open because I'm holding this in weird ways. Let me see if I can't hammer that into place. Okay. Just taking it over to my anvil for a second. Sorry, guys. It's over here. I'm going to lose it for sure. All right. I'm just going to forget about that for now. It will go back on, but I'm not going to waste your time on the video here. That's what the inside of a TEMU knife looks like. All in all, it feels very well constructed when you're holding it in your hand. It feels heavy, like there's a nice weight to everything. But just know that that's what you're looking at, especially with anything with this shape and style of handle. Something to look out for. And you might want to take a second look at your M48 products, because I don't know whether that's actually cutting corners or not. So I would like to see, maybe a stress test on that at some point. Maybe I'll take a hammer to it at some point if you guys really want to see that. But yeah, just something interesting. I thought that would be fun to show you guys while I was there switching it around and taking it apart, just to see what the inside of something like this looks like, and what they're doing now as far as construction on knives. So something to look out for in any knife where you can't see what the inside construction looks like. It's always something to look out for. So lesson learned. I'll spend my money so you guys don't have to, but there we go. That's what the inside of a TEMU knife looks like. So your choice whether to buy or avoid, but interesting nonetheless. And we will see you again next time. So have a good one, guys.